So, a former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star is finally saying what a lot of people have whispered about for years, and she is exposing some very uncomfortable truths about Dorit Kemsley and Kyle Richards. And what makes this even juicier is that it's not coming from a random blogger or fan account. This is someone who actually lived it, filmed it, and sat on those couches. She starts off by explaining that now that she's no longer on the show, she feels lighter watching it. She said she can finally be more objective, even though she still knows way too much. And honestly, that makes sense. Once you've been inside that machine, you can't just unsee things. You notice patterns, you remember conversations, you connect dots that viewers at home don't always see. She talks about how Beverly Hills was never really her natural fit socially, and that alone already explains a lot. She mentions knowing people like Rachel Zoe through real-life connections, mommy and me situations, kids being the same age, but then points out that some of the newer cast members live literally blocks away from Kyle, and she still has no real relationship with them. That alone says a lot about how surface level some of these connections really are. Then she drops something that really stood out. She explains that people assume certain friendships are deep just because they look close on camera, and Dorit and Kyle are the perfect example of that. From the outside, it always looked like they were inseparable. Vacations together, husbands hanging out, group trips, family time. But according to her, that closeness may not have actually existed the way fans believed. She revealed that she was genuinely shocked to learn that Kyle and Dorit rarely spent time together off camera. No casual lunches, no random dinners, no long walks just to catch up. In fact, she said they had never even had dinner together unless cameras were involved. That revelation alone completely reframes how we view their friendship. What made it even more awkward is that at the reunion, this information came out, and Kyle seemed almost defensive. Not angry, but uncomfortable, like she was being painted as a bad friend when in her mind, this was always the nature of their relationship. Friendly, supportive, affectionate, but not deeply personal. The former housewife explained that this disconnect likely comes from different expectations. Dorit may have viewed Kyle as a close friend, while Kyle may have seen Dorit more as a show friend, and that difference matters, especially when things get hard. She also reminded everyone that when you're filming, you see people constantly. But when filming stops, the real friendships show themselves. And according to her, Kyle doesn't really see people outside of filming unless they're in her very inner circle. Then comes the part that really ties everything together. The husbands. Mauricio and PK were extremely close, like genuinely close. And when husbands bond like that, the wives naturally end up spending more time together. It creates the illusion of a strong friendship, even if the connection is more situational than emotional. She explained it perfectly by saying, women often have many close friends, while men tend to have just a few. So when those men latch onto each other, the couples become a unit, and that unit can look stronger than it actually is underneath. This makes the timing of everything feel even more interesting. Both Dorit and Kyle experiencing major relationship breakdowns around the same period raised eyebrows. No accusations, no conspiracies, just observations that feel hard to ignore. Then she brings up Watch What Happens Live, and this is where things get messy. Kyle went on the show and casually mentioned that she, Dorit, and Erica are no longer in a good place, and the former housewife questioned why Kyle would reveal something that clearly happens later in the season when the show was only 2 episodes in. That felt intentional to her, almost like a preview of the fallout, instead of focusing on what viewers were currently watching. She wondered if Kyle did it to build interest, or if that conflict was simply the biggest takeaway of the season for her. What's even more wild is that the former housewife said she had just seen Kyle 2 days before a reunion and genuinely thought Kyle and Dorit were close. That's how convincing the image was. Even someone who was inside the circle believed it. And then, quietly, the truth slipped out. Kyle admitted they love each other, but they were never as close as people thought. Different perceptions, different definitions of friendship. And suddenly, Dorit being blindsided by Kyle pulling away makes so much more sense. This is where the exposure really hits. Dorit wasn't just losing a friend. She was losing the version of that friendship she believed existed. And when someone realizes they valued a relationship more than the other person did, that pain cuts deep. The former housewife made it clear that she doesn't think either of them is evil or malicious. She thinks this is a classic case of misaligned expectations mixed with reality TV pressure. But she also made it clear that Kyle tends to emotionally detach before publicly distancing herself, which can leave the other person feeling confused and discarded. And Dorit, especially with everything else going on in her life, likely didn't see it coming. What makes this whole situation even more intense is how it plays out on camera versus real life. Viewers only see edited moments, but the emotional shifts happen quietly, off-screen, long before they explode on the show. By the end of it, the former housewife basically confirmed what many fans have suspected. Beverly Hills friendships are often more strategic than personal. Proximity, husbands, filming schedules, and alliances matter more than deep emotional bonds. And when the cameras stop rolling, the truth becomes impossible to hide. So now I want to know what you think. Do you believe Dorit genuinely thought Kyle was a close friend? Or do you think the signs were always there? Do you think Kyle was being honest? Or do you think she rewrote history once things fell apart? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and make sure you're subscribed because this season is just getting started and the tea is only getting hotter.